Excellent. And we are ready to go. And so with that, welcome to this kickoff meeting for the Livingston and Wyoming County Water Loss Control Pilot Program. It's a long title, but it's going to be a fantastic program in which we are going to introduce best practices for water loss management, starting with how we are measuring our water loss, and then how reliable the information is that we're using to quantify our water losses, and then also making sure that we have some tangible action plans that are going to be developed for each of the municipal partners participating in this program. So we're going to cover all of that today in the time that we have, but really wanted to say we really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy morning to learn a little bit more about what's in store for this program. My name is Drew Blackwell. I'm the Director of Water Efficiency at Kavanaugh, and we have been working with Caitlin and Jason at Livingston County Water and Sewer Authority for some time now, wanting to find a way that we can engage with all of you on this program and deliver water loss best practices. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass it over to Caitlin, who has been really instrumental in helping us put this program together, and allow Caitlin to introduce herself and provide a couple opening remarks. Take it away, Caitlin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I'm the Sustainability Analyst at Livingston County Water and Sewer Authority. Jason unfortunately was unable to make it to the call today, but he and I both wanted to say welcome and thank you so much for joining us this morning. Feel free to ask any questions at any point during the call. Feel free to make any comments or concerns known. But again, thank you so much for being here, and we hope this is helpful for you.
Great. Thank you, Caitlin. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce our Kavanaugh and Livingston County Water and Sewer Authority team. But in just a moment, we're going to ask you guys for some introductions. Now, we have a lot of people on the call, so what I'd like to do is just prompt each of the municipal partners, and then maybe if you guys could decide on one person from your utility just to introduce the utility and your team, and if you have any background in water loss control, how you're tracking it, or any other proactive water loss reduction things that you've been employing in your system, that would be helpful to know. And if you're brand new to tracking water loss, that's a-okay as well. So just want to give you a heads up. Just pick one person from each utility, because we've got 12 of you, 12 utilities on the line, and to introduce your team for us. So, but while you're thinking that over, I will introduce our team, and I'll ask our team to come off mute. Actually, you just met Caitlin, and so I'll move over to the Kavanaugh team. And Will, would you start us off with some quick introductions? We'll go Will, Tori, Larry, Ashley, and Chris and Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. Will Jernigan, glad to be with you this morning. A couple relevant pieces of info about me. I'm active with the American Water Works Association, and for about 15 years have been the lead on the group that does the AWWA water audit software, the free software that you're going to be utilizing in this program. We're also very active and involved in AWWA's water loss conference that happens every 2 years. And so I'm excited to kind of take some of the national perspective and share it, and also help to talk about how you apply it at the local level.
Thanks, Will.
Yep. Good morning, everybody. Tori Wagner with Kavanaugh. Like Will, fairly active with AWWA, co-chair of the M36 manual, which I'm sure will be mentioned in our training and throughout the project. So work with tons and tons of utilities, and looking forward to working with everybody on the call.
Good morning. My name is Larry Lewison. I'm a water loss specialist with Kavanaugh and look forward to working with some of you.
Good morning, everyone. Ashley Hollifield with Kavanaugh. Prior to Kavanaugh, I've worked at a utility and in regulatory spaces, so understanding kind of your pain points from that seat as well. And I've also had the opportunity to co-author the M36 manual, so excited to be here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Penwell with Kavanaugh. I'm an engineering technician, and I'm really looking forward to working with all of you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Andrew McCarthy with Kavanaugh. I am our Director of Business Development and Carbon Specialist for this project. So one of the things we'll be doing, which is somewhat newer for the M36 methodology, is utilizing the newly added carbon balance, which should give you guys some information on how much energy you're consuming and saving when you reduce leakage, which thus translates to carbon savings. Looking forward to working with all of you.
Fantastic. All right. I think that's all the Kavanaugh team on the line right now. Thanks for those introductions, everyone. So you heard you guys are all in really good hands with water loss experts and with a national experience here. Will mention the AWWA software subcommittee. So the industry standard tool that we're going to be using through this program is the tool that committee is charged with developing, enhancing, and providing as a resource through AWWA to utilities. Chris, who introduced himself, is going to be manning the chat. So if you guys have any questions you want to put in the chat throughout the course of this webinar, then please feel free. But we'll also have some pause points where folks can feel free to come off mute and ask questions as well. All right. So now that you have now that we've done our introductions, we want to pass it over to you all. And again, with so many utilities on the line, I'll just prompt you by utility, and then if one representative could just introduce your team, just so we know who's on the line, and any background in water loss or water auditing that you have. And again, if this is brand new to you, then that is also okay to say. So so the first utility that I have, and also I will ask you guys if I mispronounce the name of your utility municipality, please let me know immediately. I've scanned the list, and I think I'm good for most of them, but there's a couple that are questionable. So just let me know. But the first up on my list is Town of Avon.
Hey, Eric Hendrick and Kim McDowell, Town of Avon. I'm the operator for the town. Kim is the water clerk, water secretary, and every other title you can imagine here. And this will be both of our first time participating in anything like this, aside from just monitoring regular slippage.
Great, thanks, guys.
Did we notice that Drew mispronounced the very first utility?
I knew we'd be a makeup company right away.
All right. Well, thank you for correcting me, guys, and
awesome.
Thanks for being here. All right. Next, I have Caledonia.
Hi, Village of Caledonia, Chris Buckley, Superintendent of Public Works. I'm here alone today, but the village clerk will be helping. We do annual, sometimes twice a year, leak surveys to help with our water loss.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. And Town of Covington. Give another beat here. They may not be on. All right. And let's go to Warsaw.
Well, I'm Steve Perkins. I'm the town supervisor currently. I think on the line is our clerk or deputy clerk who does the billing, some of the billing portion for us. We do contract with Wyoming County to do a bulk of the billing. Previous experience, I have some water loss experience through previous jobs with Wyoming County Health Department and Wyoming County Water Resource Agency.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you being here. All right. Village of Arcade. Good morning.
Morning. Derek Rule with the Village of Arcade. Our water operator, Todd Whitmire, he had to just step out to take care of an issue real quick. He'll be back. Been with the village for about 1.5 years. Prior to that, I spent the last 11.5 years working in civil engineering with water and wastewater systems. So got a pretty good amount of experience on this and I'm looking forward to the program.
Fantastic, Derek. And it's not a water loss official water loss meeting unless somebody has to duck out for some type of emergency. So all good. Thanks for being here. All right. Next up, we have Village of Mount Morris.
Hi, I'm Kelly Bacon, the mayor, and I've got Lisa Torcello, our clerk treasurer, with us, and Chris Young is also on the line. He's our superintendent of public works. And Chris, I'll let you speak to our water system here.
Yes, Chris Young, superintendent of public works. Really haven't had any large scale like water loss program like this.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you, guys. Thanks for being on the call today. All right, and Town of Perry.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the Perry Town Clerk, and we are also new to water loss.
Right. And you found the mute button.
I did. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Next up, we have Village of Silver Springs. Good morning.
Morning, Dave Hall, Village of Silver Springs superintendent. I'm here with Susan, who is our town clerk or village clerk, excuse me. And this is our first participation in such a program.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate you guys being here. Okay, and we will move to Attica.
Hello, good morning. I'm Matt Durfee, Chief Operator of the Village of Attica Water Department. I have Julie Cook, Deputy Mayor, on the line with us, and I also have Justin Lane, which is our GIS specialist. Kind of new into water loss. We recently have just purchased the ALFX system for our hydrants and waiting to put them in play and start finding water loss.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Matt. Thank you and the Attica team for being here today. All right. Next up is the one that I'm unsure of, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. So, Village of Leicester.
That's pretty close.
Oh, okay. I'll take it.
My name is Dan Christian. I'm a deputy mayor and no experience with water loss management.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Wait, Drew, what's the correct pronunciation?
Leicester.
Wait, say it again.
Sorry. One more time.
Leicester. Take out all those other extra letters and it's just Leicester.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't close. I wasn't close on that.
That's very kind.
All right. Now, we may have a couple other groups on the line that are not municipalities, but if I missed any municipality, please come off mute and introduce yourself. And if not, if there are any others on the line that have not had a chance to introduce the organization they're with, please come off mute and just to do a quick introduction, if you don't mind.
I'll go if I could.
Okay.
My name is Matthew Borelli. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for Wyoming County. I'm on today with Arjun from my office, who's our GIS specialist. We both help staff the Wyoming County Water Resource Agency. I'm fairly new in this position and also to water loss and auditing.
Excellent. Thank you, Matthew.
Hello.
Village of Perry on the line too. My name is Samantha Marcy. I'm the village administrator. And then we have our village clerk who does the billing, Christina Slusher, and then Steve Deaton, superintendent of public works, and Mike Mott, our water operator. Steve, are you on the line?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just about to introduce us as well. We have a little bit of experience with the LFlex system. Also, we have it implemented right now. We've located 3 different leaks with it, and we're still in the process of learning it. But as of right now, I think we went online November 4th, and to find 3 leaks right off the bat without doing a bunch of correlation, I think it's a pretty good start. We also use rural water to help us pinpoint some of those right now until we get the system really locked in.
Great. Thank you, Sam and Steve. All right. Anyone else that we have not heard from?
So I'm
Mike
Roach
Roach from the town of Eagle. Supervisor, our water operator is out of town currently, so I'm here to gain and gather as much information as I can.
Fantastic. And Michael, I'm sorry, I missed who you're with.
Town of Eagle.
Eagle.
Wyoming
Okay.
County.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Rob, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, sorry about that. Rob Gines, Wyoming County Health Department. We do have some staff internal to our department that does some leak detection assistance with our towns and villages, but just wanted to be attached to the system here in the program here.
Great. Thank you, Rob.
We heard from the town of Warsaw, but is anyone here from Village of Warsaw by any chance?
I was scanning the list and I didn't see any names that I recognize. This is Steve Perkins, the town of Warsaw supervisor. So I don't think there is currently.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Last call. Excellent. Well, guys, thank you very much for going through those very efficient, albeit not completely pronounced correctly, introductions. What we hear, what I heard from those introductions, first of all, is something we love to hear is that you guys have already understood by bringing in folks from distribution, billing, even elected officials, that this is first of all, it's an important issue, but it is also an interdepartmental effort. When it comes to water loss control, a lot of times we see that different departments are working together sometimes for the first time, and that's really necessary when it comes to water loss control and the water auditing process that we're going to be working together with through this program. We're looking at data from water supplied, billed consumption, system data, financial data, and there's typically not one person that owns all of that information. So just understanding who collects and who has that information to inform what goes into our calculating our water losses going to be important. But we'll also talk about the practices and policies that are behind the data that we're going to be looking at. So with that, it really is crucial that we have folks that are familiar with distribution and supply metering, folks that are familiar with billing and finance, and folks that are familiar with customer metering, reading and maintenance practices in your system. And then also what we've seen is folks from general management to really make sure they're understanding the big picture of what this putting together a water loss team entails. So heard a lot of good interdepartmental attendance from the municipal partners on the line already. Also, it sounds like a lot of you are doing a lot of proactive leak detection work. So that's always great to hear, and we look forward to learning more about those results and how you're going about it as we work together through this program. All right. So what I'd like to walk us through today, really our main goal today is to introduce you to this pilot program where we'll be working with our team at Kavanaugh and Caitlin at LCWSA. We'll be working with each of the municipal partners on. So we want to go over just high-level objectives of the program. And then we always like to ground ourselves with why are we putting together a water loss program to begin with, and maybe give some national context there and other regulation and policy matters that go into putting together a water loss program. Then we'll go to how we're establishing effective water loss management. So here we'll just begin to introduce a lot of the key concepts from the American Water Works Association M36 methodology. Now, when I'm referring to M36, that is the AWWA manual for water auditing and loss control programs. So we'll just begin to introduce some of those key concepts, all of which we are going to dive into in a lot more detail when we meet in person for our first training workshop with you all. And then after we go through that, we're going to talk about what are some of the intended results. So here we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the program, take a look at what you can expect for the schedule, and then also what, more importantly, what you can expect to learn through this program and take away from it. We'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. But again, if you do have some questions along the way, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll respond to them as best as possible. If it needs a little bit more discussion, we'll reserve it for the end of our presentation today. With that, we'll move right into the high-level objectives here. And first, we'll introduce what is known as the water balance and the AWWA methodology. The water balance is really a mass balance, starting with the treated water that's entering our distribution system. We want to account for all the volumes of water that are going into that distribution system. And through that process that we'll take a closer look at here in a moment, we're able to look at our water losses, not just no longer looking at them as just a percentage of water loss, but enabling us to look at our water losses in terms of volumes, values, and then how reliable that data is. We also are going to introduce the industry standard tool. Will mentioned it earlier. He's the chair of the software subcommittee. The official name of the tool we'll be looking at is the AWWA Free Water Audit Software. As the name suggests, it is a freely available tool, and we will show some screenshots of it where you can go and find that and how you will be engaging with that tool, working with us through the program. The next objective is going to speak to, you've heard me mention terms of data validity and how reliable the data is already. So introducing and conducting a level 1 valid water audit validation. This is a process in which you're going to be working with a member of the Kavanaugh team to validate your water audit data. And what that means is we are making sure that we're putting in information into the water audit software correctly and per the M36 methodology, and making sure that we're reviewing it for any errors and adjusting for any errors that we may find. We're also assessing the practices and policies within your system, which are not altogether a measure of how accurate your data is, but it does give us a sense of how reliable the information is, and gives us a sense of how confident we are in the water loss numbers that the water audit is providing us. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we are providing some utility-specific, tailored next steps for each of the municipal partners in this program. And one of those tangible takeaways is working with you guys to develop an action plan of some immediate next steps and perhaps some shorter term next steps, all depending on the water audit results that we have working with your utility. At the end of your participation in this program, you will have 2 consecutive years of validated water audit data. So that's a good first step of establishing a baseline in which to make some informed decisions on how to invest in your water loss program. So those are the high-level objectives that we're going to be working with. And first, maybe let's give a little bit more context to a water loss program. Now, a lot of you have already mentioned leak detection devices that you've deployed throughout your system, or some proactive measures that you've taken in order to reduce leakage. There are so many, especially today, there's the technology in leak detection is a really exciting time. There's so many things out there, wireless sensors, acoustic leak detection, satellite imaging, drone surveillance for leaks. Lots of technologies to choose from, but where do we start? Which one of these technologies is right for our system? Or even stepping back a little bit further, is what does my water loss look like in my system? Is leakage actually my main concern? Every system has leakage. No system is immune to water losses, but understanding the full array of what losses look like in your system is important. Not just from how much water you're losing, but how much it's costing you for the certain types of losses. So it really starts with measuring. We can't control what we don't measure. I know everybody's heard that phrase before, and it's just as true in water loss as it is in any other person in any other part of the water industry. So that begs the question: what are we tracking? Unaccounted for water, is that what we're tracking, or are we looking at a percent of water loss? Is it just leakage that we're tracking? Is it non-revenue water? So we need to understand what it is exactly we're tracking. And by the way, just to say it, unaccounted for water is a term that AWWA abandoned in 2002. So if nothing else through this program, if anyone is still using the term unaccounted for water, we are going to to move to a new term of looking at our non-revenue water and what that entails as the primary indicator that we're tracking. So again, percent water loss, we want to move away from a percent water loss to instead looking at our water losses in terms of volume, value, and validity. How much water we're losing volumetrically, and how much it's costing us each year, and then how reliable is the information that are giving us these numbers in the first place. Because any uncertainty in the numbers that we're plugging into the water audit is going to translate to some degree of uncertainty when we look at the results in the water audit. From a big picture perspective, again, no system is immune to water losses, and really establishing a baseline of validated water audit data is what will set us up for success in taking the next steps in our water loss program. So what you see here is really our best effort at condensing the M36 methodology into one graphic, but it does a pretty good job of showing the evolution of a water loss program. Again, starting with establishing a baseline of validated water audit data. That is what we're going to achieve through this program. We'll be doing that through using the industry standard tool, the AWWA free water audit software, and working with our team to validate your water audit and disaggregate our water losses into what we'll refer to as real losses, physical leaks in your system, and apparent losses, the water that's making it to your customer, but you're not capturing the revenue or measuring it accurately in your system. But beyond establishing that baseline, there's a lot of other things that can be done within a system. And so just want to hit those real quick to understand the bigger picture here. Beyond the water audit, there are more technical analyses that a utility can look into to really develop their loss profile. Advanced validation methods such as a billing data analysis that would be looking at your raw billing data and looking for any flags and anomalies that may be giving us misleading information of what our consumption looks like. A leakage analysis to really understand the different types of leakage in our system. We've heard folks deploying leak detection devices on this call already. There's 3 different types of leakage, and they all have different intervention strategies or tools to consider in order to reduce those leaks. So we have reported leaks that are coming to the surface that your community, your staff are alerting you to. We have unreported leaks that are not coming to the surface, but are typically detected through some of those leak detection sensors that some of you mentioned earlier during our introductions. And then there's background leakage. These are the weeps and seeps in your pipes, where those leak detection devices are typically not picking that up. So maybe pressure management is a more effective strategy to reducing that type of leakage. There's other technical analyses that we can look at, but also an economic analysis to understand the optimum level of intervention that we want to tackle in our system. And from this, we're understanding setting targets of what is economically recoverable in our system. And this certainly helps us understand how much, after we understand what are the specific losses and what is the right tool for those losses, we now want to understand how much is that going to cost in which to intervene and reduce those losses. And then that cost-effective box, that's really implementation. So after establishing a baseline of validated water audit data, performing additional technical analyses to further pinpoint those losses, and then understanding what's economically recoverable, at that point, we have much more reliable data to make informed decisions on how to what to invest in to reduce those losses in our system. So it really is a prescriptive approach, and one that we are introducing you all to through this program. Our interaction for this pilot program is going to be in this baseline box, working with the industry standard tool and establishing 2 consecutive years of validated water audit data, and then developing an action plan beyond that. So that's the industry, the M36 methodology, and progression of a water loss program. What we commonly see with utilities that are not taking that prescriptive step is what we're showing here on the screen. And just to orient you to this, in blue we have our water supplied. In green, we have our billed consumption. And I want to point your attention to the yellow dashed line. And this is a water system that is tracking their water loss as a percentage. So it's fluctuating month to month. It goes up, it goes down, and it gets to a point really where a utility is saying, my percentage of water loss is high, and I'm compelled to do something about it. And at that point, we a lot of times we'll see utilities jump over those first 3 steps and go straight to intervention, straight to investing X amount of dollars in, we'll say leak detection. They have, the system will have leaks in their system, but is leakage the biggest, what their main priority should be? Sometimes through those prescriptive steps, we could find that sometimes it's not a leakage problem, it's a data problem. So we do need to start by looking at how reliable the data is and vetting through that before investing in those intervention strategies. A little bit about the M36 methodology. First and foremost, this is not a new thing. This has been established over nearly 3 decades. And through this, I want to pick out just a couple key inflection points in the evolution of the AWWA M36 methodology. In 2014 was version 5 was released. That was a real inflection point on utilities across the country adopting and using this tool, and had a more robust way of tracking the reliability of the information going into the water audit. From there was a lot of activity, research projects through the Water Research Foundation to underscore, or to really to understand and underscore the importance of water audit validation that we're going to be working with you guys through this program. From the industry standpoint, North American Water Loss Conference was initiated and has been a industry standard event that is recognized internationally. In fact, we met the folks at Livingston County Water and Sewer Authority at this year's North American Water Loss Conference to talk more about this program. To the bottom right is a screenshot of the current version of the AWWA water audit software. And if that is a new image to you by the end of this program, you're going to be much more familiar with this tool. And then that brings us to the most recent update, the most current version of the AWWA M36 manual. You don't need to have this. It's not a requirement to have this manual to participate in this program. It is the best resource for water loss practices and management. A couple other resources that I'm sharing here on the screen. If you're interested, there are the Level 1 Water Audit Validation Guidance Manual. That's really the, when we are working with your system to validate your water audit, this is really the playbook that our Kavanaugh team wrote and follows when we're working with a utility. So all of these are good resources to keep in mind as you continue to grow your water loss program. Another resource and important in how we're looking at the results of our water losses is this position paper that was published by the American Waterworks Association Water Loss Control Committee that officially abandoned any percentage-based metrics. So I know a lot of folks mentioned that they're new to water loss, but likely you've been tracking some form of water loss in your system, whether it's just taking the difference between your supply and your consumption and calculating a percent of water loss. Maybe you've been breaking it down a little bit more granularly, but this position moves away from percentages. And when we go into the water balance, this will become a little bit more clear when we begin to separate out those different types of losses. But abandoning percentages and focusing on the volumes, values, and validity. This is just as the M36 methodology is not a new thing, the adoption across the country and North America, really, as we have it shown here, is changing all the time. This map already needs to be updated, but different states have different requirements or have adopted different parts of the M36 methodology. What we'll be working with you guys in validating your water audit data, these states and provinces in the dark blue, they require that of utilities in their states for an annual submission. So it'll be a neat introduction to you learning and going through this process that some states are requiring their utilities to go through, and hopefully you'll see the benefit of that. And with these different adoptions and requirements come water loss training and technical assistance programs, just like the one that we're embarking on today. And then just I won't go through all of these, but just a acknowledgement that different states have different water loss policies and regulations that they're implementing to better understand what water losses look like for the utilities in their state, but also understanding how reliable the information is. And it's also a good assessment of needs of utilities. Where is the biggest lack of reliability and how can we close that gap? So that's just some context there for what we're going to be working with together. Now I want to jump into how we're going to establish effective water loss management. And it all starts with the water balance that I mentioned earlier. So this is a mass balance. So the columns that you see in this graphic are all going to equal the same volume. So the volume of treated water that is entering our drinking water distribution system, on the left, the column on the far right is going to total the same volume. So through this mass balance approach, we are accounting for all volumes of water in our drinking water system. And we're no longer attributing any volume of water as unaccounted for. Each volume is going to go in one of these boxes that we're showing on the screen. So it's a mass balance approach. We account for all volumes of water, and we're doing that through either measured metering or estimating some of the volumes. But the real takeaway is that all of those volumes are going to fall into one of these categories to help us better understand where our water losses are. Again, we'll go through this when we meet in person for our training workshop in much more detail, but just to introduce different parts of this water balance, the water supplied, this is really the most important part of the water balance and the water audit. It is the starting number, if you will, of our water balance. So understanding the reliability, or on the other hand, any uncertainty that we have in our water supply number is going to be important to document. When we talk about reliability, it's how are we maintaining those supply meters that are registering the volumes of water going into the distribution system? How often are we reading them? Are we doing any testing on those meters, either volumetric or electronic calibration? All of those considerations go into how reliable the water supply number is. And it also, the water supply is made up by a couple different components. Some of you are purchasing your treated water. Some of you may be producing some of your water, and then you may be exporting some of the water out to a neighboring utility. So all of those are possible components of your water supply profile that we'll look into and discuss in more detail. But it's an important number as we get started. When we do work with you on your utility data, this is often where we spend a fair amount of time up front to better understand your supply profile. It's also the biggest number in your water balance. The next biggest number would be your authorized consumption. So authorized is just to mean this is a use in a consumption in your system that is an authorized use. It's either billed or unbilled, and we want to understand if it's metered or unmetered. So we hope that authorized consumption is the second largest number in your water audit and your water balance. But this is where we can get measured metered volumes through your billed metered consumption. You may have some consumption for your customers where maybe not all of your customers are metered. In that case, there's a way that we would like to estimate what that consumption might be. You may have some consumption for some customers that are exempt from billing. So you're metering them, but you're not billing for it. These could be municipal facilities, could be your own utility treatment facilities. Every system is going to have a slightly different policy related to that, but that's going to be an important to understand what that unbilled but metered consumption might be. And then unbilled and unmetered consumption, examples there would be flushing in your system, fire use, sometimes street sweeping. Again, that's going to vary from system to system, but we want to understand what each of those volumes are in the water balance. This helps us understand the supply and the consumption, and taking the difference of those is going to give us our water losses. And this is a key differentiator from how some may be tracking their water loss, is that we don't want to just stop at a single volume of water loss. We want to break that down into those two different types of losses that we mentioned earlier, apparent losses and real losses. Apparent losses are the water that is making it to your customer, your end user, but we're not measuring it accurately through inaccurate customer metering, and we're not capturing the revenue for that water. So that can be shown in a couple different ways. It can be shown as unauthorized consumption. It's just a fancy word for theft in your system. The largest component is usually an inaccurate customer metering. And there could be some systematic data errors in your system that we are just not accounting for and need to understand. But the other type of loss are the real losses. These are the physical leaks in your system. We know that those losses are occurring through main and service line breaks, could be leakage and overflows at your storage tanks and reservoirs as well. We'll quantify these two different types of losses, both volumetrically, and then understand how much they're costing your system each year. And your apparent losses and your real losses are going to be valued differently. Apparent losses will be valued at the customer retail rate, whereas your real losses are going to be valued at the cost to produce the water. So if we lose water physically into the ground, we pump more water into the system. And so we'll look at those variable costs of how to value the leakage in our system. And hopefully this is starting to give you an idea of how we begin to prioritize. Once we understand how much water we're losing volumetrically, how much it's costing us, we can look at that and it begins to help us prioritize what our next step is and what we should be focusing on. So this water loss or this water balance approach is really the foundation of the free water audit software. What you're seeing now is just a snapshot of one part of the software after a water audit has been populated. And now this particular utility can start to see the volumes of water that are going into each component here in our water balance. So we begin to now be able to look at this volumetrically as it relates to the water balance approach. This is another screenshot of the water audit software. By the way, we keep referring to it as the free water audit software. It is in fact an Excel spreadsheet. So it is a format that we're all familiar with, but it does have a lot of good tools under the hood to help us calculate our water losses and both in volume and value, and then assess the reliability of our water audit results. The good thing is this sheet that you're looking at is where you'll spend most of your time in the water audit. And there's only about 11 or 12 inputs that are applicable for most utilities. The real legwork comes in just making sure that we're gathering the right data to put into the water audit. As you see it here, these light blue cells are cells where you input the information, and the orange cells, I love the orange cells because those are automatically calculated for you based on previous inputs. And if you can see it, you may be able to start to see some of these familiar terms: water supplied, authorized consumption, apparent losses, real losses. These are all terms from the water balance. So understanding the water balance and the terminology is going to be our first step in our training program before moving into applying it to your water audit. And then the validity component is what we're showing here. Each input in the water audit has what we refer to as a data grade. And this is an assessment of the practices and policies within your system. The data that's going into the input, whether it's water supplied or authorized consumption, we want to learn what practices are behind that data. How are we managing that information, and how are we deriving some of those inputs? So this helps us understand how reliable that number is that's going into the water audit. Think of your billed metered consumption volume. In our water audit, there's only one input for that number. And so we want to understand as best we can through working with you what your practices are to get to that number and how reliable it is. And then once the water audit is populated, this is the dashboard. This is the results tab of the water audit software. So what you will see here is on the going to the top left corner and then moving clockwise, you'll see an overall data validity score for your utility. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the workshop, but it is out of a score of 100. What we always encourage utilities how to think about this is not to look at the score as a A, B, C, D, or F grade, but rather what tier you fall in and what are the appropriate next steps to improve your data validity. In other words, wherever your data validity score is a good place in which to start and work to improve your data validity. We also don't look at it as an A, B, C, D, or F grade because out of all of the thousands of water audits that our Kavanaugh team has worked with, we've never seen one with a data validity score of 100. Even a data validity score north of 80 is very rare. So want to make sure we set the proper mindset when you're looking at your utility's data validity. We've worked with utilities that had a data validity score of 25, and they were very happy because now they have a starting point and a plan to improve their data validity. There is a suite of key performance indicators that help us understand our different losses, or apparent losses and real losses in terms of cost and in terms of volume that we're losing. Cost in terms of dollars per connection per year, and volumes in terms of gallons per connection per day. And then moving over to the graph in the bottom left, this is where we're able to look at each of these components of non-revenue water, your unbilled authorized consumption, your apparent losses, and your real losses, and their subcomponents, and look at it in terms of volume and value. In this particular example, in blue, we see leakage on the far left. In blue is the largest component by volume. It also happens to be the largest component in a cost perspective, but that's not always the case. It's not always a one-to-one relationship in volume and cost. All right, want to move to some of the intended results here. And this is now going to move us into what you can expect and a little bit more about the nuts and bolts in the program. So our approach in working with all the municipal partners is simple. It's, first we'll start with a learning approach, teaching and training, diving into the terms and the information behind the water balance. And the M36 methodology. So when we do meet in person, we'll have a mixture of training, but also give you some chance to apply what you've learned and apply your utility specific data. So that's the next part of our training approach is after learning and getting a good base knowledge of the water balance, M36 methodology and the terminology there, where the rubber hits the road is when you are starting to use your utility specific data with the water audit and working with our team to make sure that we're validating the data and we are informing the water audit as best we can with the data available. And then lastly, we want to take what we've learned, what we've applied with your utility data, and make sure that you conclude this program with some specific next steps to consider in your program, to the point where we are developing an action plan with your utility that you have to carry with you beyond this program and help keep that momentum and cohesion of your water loss team that you've put together for this pilot program. Hopefully you can read what's on the screen here. It's a little small, but this is a general schedule of what how we'll be working with you guys. So today we're here on our kickoff meeting. And after this meeting, we are going to follow up with all the attendees, all the municipal partners, and with a data request list. So you're going to have a homework item right from the get-go. I'll show what that information that we're going to be requesting looks like. But we'll send you a data request list and some step-by-step instructions of how to share that information with us. And we'll have from now till April, which is when we are expecting to meet with you all in person for you to gather that information. And you'll also have our team as a resource for any questions along the way. We're looking to hold those in-person workshops in April. Exact dates are TBD, but we're getting very close, and Caitlin will be sharing those once we have those nailed down. Caitlin will be communicating those dates, locations, times, agenda, all that good stuff, so you can be prepared to come ready to learn on those dates. Closer to after we have our in-person workshop, we'll also or actually during the in-person workshop, we'll have a combination of training, but also water audit validation. So we'll have, as a large group, we'll meet, and then we'll break up into small groups where you'll be working with a member of our Kavanaugh team, and we'll be looking at your utility data, and going through that validation process where we're really just having a conversation and learning more about your system to do that process. We'll be looking at your calendar year 2024 data. I know we're going back in time a little bit, but we do want to make sure that you have 2 consecutive years of validated water audit data. So we'll come back later and do the calendar year 2025, but when we meet in person, we're going to start with our calendar year 2024 information. After that, we want to meet back with utilities to report out what the water audit results look like, but then begin to make sure everybody understands what are some of the common next steps from what my results are on my water audit, how to interpret my water audit, but also what are some of those common next steps that I might start considering doing in my system. That common next steps workshop will likely be a remote webinar webcast like this. And then in the late summer, early fall, we'll come back and repeat that water audit validation process. But this time we'll be doing it for the calendar year 2025, which will be the most recent complete data set that you'll have for an annual water audit. And at the end of that, we'll work with your team to develop some an action plan so you can start moving from audit to actionable steps in your system. So this is just kind of recapping what I just walked through, but tying it into our learning or training approach. At these in-person events, we'll do the combination. We'll do 2 consecutive days. Day 1 will be heavy in training, and then beginning the water audit validation process. Day 2 will be concluding the water audit validation process, and then summary and making sure that everybody knows what their next steps are in the program. As I mentioned, when we do meet in person, that first part of the training will be together as a large group, but then we'll push tables and chairs aside, and we'll be working specifically with the utilities and your utility specific information. And this is really going to be a critical part of the program. There'll be some peer-to-peer learning where you hear how some utilities are doing one thing that maybe you haven't thought of, or you're doing something that another utility hasn't considered before. But these are the formats that we'll be conducting our in-person 2-day training session, where we'll meet as a large group and break out into smaller utility groups. Some of the supporting documentation. So I mentioned there's going to be a homework item right off the bat here, and we'll give you more instructions after this meeting. But the information that we're going to be requesting of you is referring to that as supporting documentation. So in order to complete a water audit, you really have to have supply data and consumption data, bare minimum. And so that information will request if you have water supplied information, whether it's water you're producing, water that you're purchasing, or water that you're selling to a neighboring community. We would like to see that information broken down per meter per month, right? So you may have a treatment facility with one effluent meter, and that's it. So looking at the volume for that meter for each month of the year is what we'd be looking at. Or you may have 5 groundwater wells, each individually metered, and that water is going directly into the distribution system. In that scenario, we're interested in all 5 of those meters, looking at the volume of those passing through those meters per meter per month. If you're doing any testing on those supply meters, we would love to see the test results for that, because we can begin to apply those test results to the water supply number to really get a more accurate water supply number to inform our water audit. If we're not doing testing, no problem. We don't. There's no documentation for that, but we'll also have a conversation about that of how important that might be. For your authorized consumption, again, this is your billed, metered, billed unmetered, unbilled metered, and or unbilled unmetered. All authorized consumption uses. We'd love to see this broken down. Your billed metered per class per month. So your single family, multifamily, commercial, industrial. It's going to look different for each utility. What I want to say is that we're not going to require you to conform to some template or format to send this to. We know that you're already tracking this information in a way that works for your utility. So whatever way you send us the data will be okay, just as long as it has the degree of information that we're requesting. And this should be stuff that you guys are already tracking, likely already tracking anyway. So it'll be just a matter of who's the right person at my utility to go to get this information, and then gathering that data and then providing that to our team. But this is where we want you guys to start. This is the information that we really have to have. There's also some information that is nice to have, not necessarily required to conduct or populate or validate your water audit. But if we have this information, it only helps inform and provide some more reliability in our water audit. The first one here is a system schematic. When we start talking about your water supply profile, we do spend quite a bit of time making sure that we understand your supply profile. We're not intimately familiar with your system, at least not yet. And so this is one of those cases where a picture speaks 1,000 words. If you don't have a system schematic, a simple drawing is also really helpful. And if we're working with your system when we're meeting together in person, If we still don't have one, we'll sketch one out together, just to make sure we're all on the same page and we're not missing anything when it comes to your supply profile. If you are doing any customer meter testing and you have test results, that is something that could be helpful to better inform our how our customer meter population is performing. If you're not doing proactive meter testing, no problem. But if you are, this would be a good information to provide. Average operating pressure, that's also, if we have an estimate of our average operating pressure throughout our total system, that's fine. If we have some way that we are better calculating that, that's good to provide as well. The last two pieces here are, this is information on how we value our losses. So we value the apparent losses at the customer retail rate. And so everybody's rate structure is going to look a little bit different. This information is, likely we can find this on your municipal websites, but we'll request this information. And if you have any questions about it, our team is going to be ready to help walk you through that. And then the variable production cost, this is how we value the leakage in our system. Things like the cost of your chemicals for treatment, your electrical costs for pumping and distribution throughout your system. There are some other secondary costs that we might consider as well, and we'll detail those out in our data request. But high level, this is the type of information that we'll be requesting from you guys. So the goal is to have that information before we meet in person. So when we do meet in person, we are sitting down, looking at the screen together, walking through your data together, and we are building your water audit out together. And we'll do that through that 2-day workshop format that we introduced just a moment ago. At the end of the program, we'll do this. We'll do this first for calendar year 2024, and then we'll come back and do a rinse and repeat for calendar year 2025. So we'll be checking that first box that we looked at earlier this morning of establishing a baseline of validated water audit data, and then be able to begin to develop an action plan and the best recommendations based on what the water audit results are telling us. It's all in the same vein of getting better data to make more informed decisions on how to invest in your water loss program. So just as a summary, here are your next steps. Number one is identify your water loss team. A lot of you guys have already done that by bringing different department staff to this call, which is fantastic. But we encourage folks from familiar with distribution, supply meter testing, folks that are familiar with billing, finance, customer metering, and management. These are all individuals that are should be part of this program, and understanding this, what we're measuring and how we're measuring it, and what each person's role is in this water loss reduction effort. Step 2 is going to be receive the data request from us, and you'll have some more detailed instructions that will come with that, and then begin gathering that data. In just a moment, I'll show you, if questions come up, how you can get a hold of us, and either if it's just a very simple question that could be asked and answered through email, or if you need a more dedicated remote meeting just like this, where we can look at information and work with your team to make sure that you feel equipped and prepared to meet for our in-person workshop. And step 4 is our just make sure you make it to the workshop. So the first part about that is us delivering those specific dates to you. we have a program website that we're going to use as a hub of information, resources, scheduling, things like that that will evolve throughout the program. Resources just like this slide deck and recording that we're doing right now, we'll post on the website. Any information that we're sharing with you through this program will be available there. So it'll be a one-stop shop for you to access information. I do want to show that real quickly, and hopefully I'm sharing that screen. Maybe Will or team, if you can just give me a thumbs up if I'm sharing the website here. But the web address is newyorkwaterloss.org, and there's going to be just a familiar, now there are going to be some familiar program steps, water loss training, data validation, and recommended next steps. So you can revisit that. Just to refresh on the schedule, if there's ever any changes to this, or when we lock down a few other dates, we'll add to this to make sure that the most current information is up here on the website. And then if you have any need to or any questions, there is a place where you can easily schedule a brief 30-minute time with our team to go over any questions that you might have. So if we're requesting the information and you have some questions on, hey, you need this water supply data, can I talk to you guys for a little bit of I think I know what you need, but I just want to make sure any questions are available. Or if you've got a handle on the information that we're requesting, but you just have some other specific water loss practice or any other applicable questions to your water loss program, happy to schedule that time as well. And there should be plenty of time available for you to do that. And our scheduling app is right here on the right-hand side of the page. As far as main contacts, if you have any questions on any programmatic questions, so the steps, the nuts and bolts that we walk through here today, I've listed my email address and phone number here. I also have Caitlin's contact information as well. If there's any questions regarding logistics when we meet in April, or any other agreements that the municipal partners have engaged with Livingston County Water and Sewer Authority, those types of questions are probably best directed towards Caitlin. But that's the general contact information. The Kavanaugh team that you met at the beginning of the call, you will likely be working with one or multiple of those folks. So you've got our full team at your resources for this pilot program. With that, would love to open it up for any questions that folks may have. So first of all, thanks again for attending this and taking some time out of your morning to learn a little bit more about this program. What I'll do is I will first take a look at the chat, and don't see any questions that have come in. So if that does raise any questions, then feel free to come off mute or pop them in the chat. We can talk through those. Likely a question that you have, someone else on the line has that exact same question. So I'll pause here for just a moment to see if there are any questions. Also completely realized that was a lot of information in a short period of time. So if you're like me, may need some time to digest all of that information. And then we'll likely have some questions after that time is allowed. So if that is the case, then you have the contact information that we just pointed you to direct any and all questions to either myself or Caitlin, or schedule a time with one of our team members.
Drew, could I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
Those of us that bill quarterly, I take it that when you go back to your sheets, when we fill out the information and everything applied monthly, but if we're doing quarterly billing, we're just going to take that information on a quarterly basis instead of monthly?
That's right, Steve. Yep. If you're on a quarterly cycle, then provide those numbers to us. The volume that will go into the water audit will be for the entire year. But the frequency in which we're taking those meter reads will, and the frequency in which we're billing will be part of understanding, will be a part of the validity assessment, how reliable that data is. So great question, and quarterly format is just fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. As others are maybe thinking about any questions, I'd also like to just open it up if either Caitlin or any of the other Kavanaugh team members on the line have any closing remarks or comments. I'd like to give that opportunity now.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you again. And if questions come up after the call, feel free to send an email to Drew or I or anyone from the Kavanaugh team. We will both be reaching out to you soon with further communications. Those will be regular as they have been. So yeah, just let us know if you need anything afterward. And thank you all again for attending.
Great. Thanks, Caitlin. All right. With that, everyone, again, thank you for attending. We will be sharing this slide deck and recording out with all of you and following up with the next steps. We are really excited to be working with you guys and help move you forward in your water loss program. Thanks so much. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and we will talk soon. Hey guys, thanks for attending the call today. Appreciate it. Does that bring up any questions for you guys?
None for me.
I'm all good here. Thank you.
Just a quick comment. Great work, Drew. Great presentation. One question maybe that comes up relative to placement of water meters for most single family residences in that area, I'm assuming are in their basements and their residencies. And so that length of customer service line will be one of those inputs that is likely not going to be a default, or something that will need to be configured for these systems. And want to just confirm that, but
yeah, that's a good point, Larry. We should expand that in the data request a little bit, or make a note of that. But when we meet with these utilities, we can also put in some reasonable or some educated placeholders for that.
Yeah, I believe that if they have a GIS department, that they've got some recognition of that line length that they could plug in. So hopefully that's the case for most of them.